The following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. It's game time. This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Chris Klieman, I think he has too much depth. I don't know how he's going to play all these guys and keep them happy, and if you're not jumping into the transfer portal, what a problem to have. I don't know. What is he going to do with all this depth?
That's how you're going to break out this program today, huh?
I'm just trying to figure out how Klieman's going to play 5 running backs. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe 3. Joe Jackson gets a carry or 2. I'm trying to lighten the load on DJ Giddens. I get that. Got to keep him fresh, and that was a phrase that was mentioned multiple times. Keep him fresh. Having that backup plan just in case somebody gets hurt, but also lighten the workload. And I get it. A lot of bodies this team wants to play in 2024. I like it. It's not a bad problem to have. All right, welcome to The Game. Mitch Fortner, Trey Coverdale, and AJ Shaw. Guys, busy show. We're going to have a couple of segments listening back to some highlights today from Chris Klieman's first fall practice press conference. 30 minutes, like 20 questions. Answered them all. We're going to hit a lot of highlights, a lot of things to talk about. This is show 1 of 20 that are left before kickoff on August 31st against UT Martin. So, today is also 1 of 20 predictions for the K-State and college football 2024 season. And our first prediction today will be who will lead K-State in interceptions. We'll discuss that here later on in hour number 1 along with Troy's Olympic update. Stump the Shaw coming up at 5:25 with more Chris Klieman highlights coming up in hour number 2 as well. We'll open up the phone line, 785-537-1350. Also going to want to know that number in case you want to take on the Shaw in some sports trivia at 5:25. Who, by the way, has won a couple of games in a row. Wasn't as cocky this past week. I wasn't hearing all this, hey, did you hear the Shaw is back? Did you hear I won another game? Speaking in both first and third person in the same sentence.
I'm learning to kind of calm myself down a bit.
Well, like I've said before, I love it that you'll go to 2 extremes, win or lose. Lose, you look depressed, you feel like, you shamed the family name and you're not going to be able to go back to Chicago for a while. And then when you win, you're on cloud 9. You're telling everybody about it.
Well,
as if they weren't listening.
That's true.
You should have been like, go back to the podcast and listen back to the show to listen if I retain my crown.
That's true.
No challenge this week, so if you do want to call in and play Stump the Shaw, which, by the way, just by playing you win the Stump the Shaw prize pack. If you stump the Shaw, if you beat AJ in sports trivia, you are winning 2 tickets to the home opener on August 31st against UT Martin. Well, let's get to some Chris Klieman quotes from earlier today. It's going to be a lot about depth, young talent, who is going to be in the rotation at some positions. This is early on in the press conference. Klieman's just excited about this young talent.
There's several defensive linemen, some DBs, some tight ends that are doing some good things. So I know that that's something that we're excited about because there's a lot of guys that people know about, everybody knows about that are playing for K-State. But there's a lot of guys that only people in our room, in our building, kind of know about, and you guys will know about pretty soon because they'll get a lot of snaps out there.
That happens typically every year. There's going to be a young guy or two that won't probably happen game 1. But in necessity, sometimes necessity, most likely a necessity, or sometimes it's just in depth, and they may be second string, 4 years ago, it was Deuce Vaughn. 5 years ago, whatever, how many seasons it's been. That was Deuce Vaughn, who was just second string. In game one, you saw the talent, and it was just better than everybody else. It was just better. He won that starting spot. It just took a few weeks. That was a game one thing. Then you have like a Jace Brown, who midway through the season makes a couple of big plays, and now you got to play him. He is an absolutely must play, right. But that was also out of necessity. Keegan Johnson just banged up. You never got full-on Keegan Johnson until late in the season. It's going to happen. Who is more of the question? There are so many possibilities, and there's more clips I want to get to, but I was thinking about this right before the show went on air. And I had the thought, because I found my notes, my preseason notes, things I just pile up, getting ready for Power K game day, and things to talk about. And I always just kind of look at the list of like redshirt freshmen, sophomores, maybe guys that didn't play necessarily, maybe was more special teams in year one, or was starting to show up maybe on the 2 deep or 3 deep, that I see them playing a significant role or a meaningful role that season. And for that 23 season, looking back at the class of 22, I looked at my notes and I had 9 guys listed on who I thought could be a meaningful role player. I think that turned out to be pretty close, like 7 or 8, I would guess. This year I have 15 from the 2023 class that are redshirt sophomore or redshirt freshmen or sophomores that could have a meaningful role. And I mean, you obviously will have some starters. I mean, Avery Johnson, who is a true sophomore, is now the starting quarterback for K-State. A lot of depth to talk about, like I said. A lot of places we could start. We'll start on defense, defensive end in that rotation.
Cheedy, Ryan Davis, Jordan Allen are the first 3 that come to mind as far as all guys that redshirted last year. You know, we've got Mott and Stuff back, which is awesome to have those guys back. Throw in Travis Bates that we got this year. We have a lot of depth there, so we're trying to find different ways to get some guys on the field.
A redshirt last year, those 3 names at the beginning of that clip are all redshirt freshmen. That's your depth. That's your 2 deep. And into the 3 deep on who is at defensive end in that rotation. Half of them are redshirt freshmen.
Also, hashtag my boy is a redshirt freshman.
Who, by the way, also, he's not a defensive end, but a linebacker, yes. Asa Newsome is back. Early injury last year, tore up the knee. That was a pretty bad injury as well. But he will be back. Let's see if I have that queued up here. Mike linebacker rotation. He's not a Mike. He's more of a Will, but here's Mike.
Bo Palmer and Austin Romaine are playing inside. Alec Marenko is a kid we brought in, been a little bit slowed by an injury, so he's missed a little bit of time, but he'll be a part of that mix as well.
I mean, you have depth at cornerback.
Justice James is in that boat with Terry Kirksey and LeJames White. It's slowing down so much for him that he played a lot of football for us last year, but we're more and more comfortable with him. Right now, that 3rd guy, it is a big battle for that 4th spot, and that 4th spot's going to play a lot for us as we get into some nickel and dime things based on personnel. So whether it's Jordan Dunbar, Kenigel Thomas, Donovan McIntosh, there's a lot of guys there that are taking some of those reps.
The 2024 season will be the first season highlighting just how special the 2023 class is truly going to be. You have a significant amount of guys, and not everybody that was just listed by Klieman in those 3 clips are all redshirt freshmen or sophomores. Some are a little bit older, but have been in the program for at least a couple of years now. But, I mean, from day one, when this class was signed, we knew it was special. It was talked about that 2023's class could be the best class, on paper, when it was signed, could very well be the best class in K-State football history that happened to be highlighted, and this was certainly, the biggest get in K-State football history potentially, with Avery Johnson, a 4-star, and he's an in-state kid, a Kansas kid. And also, this was a very heavy Kansas class. It all just looked so glorious when it was signed.
The fact remains that Johnson did so much of the recruiting himself to try and draw as many of those guys to Manhattan as possible to keep it in-state.
Well, and it won't go down as a member of the 2023 class. It's going to forever go down as a transfer portal get. But Dylan Edwards was supposed to be a part of that 2023 class as well.
Agreed.
I did not count him, by the way. Did not count him in my 2023. I'm talking guys that signed. They came in as freshmen out of high school or JUCO. JUCO not considered transfer portal. So I'm talking JUCO as well. 15 potentially. That could be more. Because going back to that first clip, Klieman said that there are guys, I'm obviously not saying this word for word, guys that some may not know about, but we do, and they're going to make an impact once they get on the field. And you look back at the 2022 class, or maybe 2023 class, and heck, I'm sure there's somebody also waiting in the wings from this year's class that's like a Jack Fabris, who was, when he was recruited, again, kind of bottom of the list when it comes to how the 24/7 Sports, the On3s, the Rivals, just ranked out the pecking order for K-State's class. And he comes in game one, and he's just hitting dudes. And he just showed up right away and he was really good. Showed up to practice, really good. Got some early playing time, ends up being a red shirt. I mean, that's just another player to watch out. That's just an example of somebody you may not be thinking of, but is going to play game one.
One of the advantages we have is the fact that very few bodies left via the transfer portal, which is still an amazing fact when you realize the way that the game is now being impacted in all stretches of college football, in all reaches of college football. The fact that there were so few guys who elected to leave in this offseason speaks volumes to where players think that this program is headed.
Well, that led me to my thought, because I know exactly right at the offseason, as the portal's opening, the question was brought up. I think it was maybe before the bowl game. The question was brought. I can't remember if it was right before the bowl game or it was between. Maybe it was during the signing class. I can't remember. But the goal was to have conversations with everybody and do the best to convince guys to stay.
Yes.
And why it's better for them to stay than go somewhere else. And that just, obviously there were a handful of guys that did transfer, obviously. Maybe some had to do with tampering, which I think there was a lot of evidence for one particular individual. But
Texas A&M would do no such thing.
Well, I'm not talking about Texas A&M. And I'm not talking about a coach. Talking about a defensive back.
Yeah.
But now I lost my train of thought.
The conversations.
The thing, my thought though came into mind. I was like, well, I think this team has more depth than last year, and I think this team may have the most depth that Klieman has had at K-State. It's going to be tough. It's tougher now to keep everybody happy, and everybody you want to play, it's going to be tougher to get them on the field if you are truly that deep. In some positions, you're just not going to rotate as much.
But let's remember, at the end of the day, if you're winning, does that override that personal feeling? Think about the numbers of players that wind up transferring out of Georgia or Alabama. Georgia comes to mind immediately because not only had they won the 2 back-to-back championships before this past season, but you also have them talking about a lack of NIL dollars right now that are going to their players. But there are not many guys that are leaving that program right now. They're more concerned about being able to go out and race, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, than they are leaving that program. More importantly, they're wanting to be a part of a winning program. And that plays a role. It still does play a role.
Want to get to a couple of more clips here. I'm glad Arnie, I was going to ask if he didn't, about special teams, kickers, punters, kick returners and punt returners. Let's start with the returners first, because there is something funny in the kicker and punters clip we'll get to in just a second. But here's Klieman about the guys rotating for those jobs at kick and punt returner.
Trying to figure out between Dylan, between Sterling, between Jace, between Keegan, James White. We've got a lot of different guys from a punt and kick return standpoint. Once again, we have not put that all together, meaning we're just doing drill work for those phases of it. But got to find more than one. We've got to have multiple guys on both punt returns and kick returns. We just haven't gotten that far in the phases of it.
Well, and again, this is, it's not a bad problem to have. You got a lot of guys that can. I think everybody that was mentioned could be a weapon as a kick and punt return. You're obviously going to have a couple of guys back in kick return. For a while now, it's just been one guy back. If I remember right, I don't remember when there was a change or how long that was when maybe two guys were back. I don't know. My memory's terrible. But I think it's a no-brainer. Dylan Edwards is going to be
right
a kickoff returner, if not also a punt returner. Now, if you ask Coach Jim Broney for the K-State Wildcats on College Football 25, and Sterling Lockett is also a kick returner, which, by the way, I think he's like the default kick returner in the game. Listen.
Really?
Sterling Lockett's been pretty good. He brought 3 kicks back to the house in 2024 in a national championship winning season for K-State, with DJ Giddens winning the Heisman Trophy on the second highest difficulty. So, I'm just saying, well, this isn't obviously a video game, and now Sterling Lockett is entering his 3rd year a part of this program, but I think it's just a matter of time before he hopefully will take off and be a significant part. And if it's Dylan Edwards not returning punts, which I still would expect him to be, I think that job is absolutely wide open, and so is the second position for kick return. I think any of those guys could do it, but I've just going back to the last couple of seasons, I've heard more about the potential of Sterling Lockett than I have anybody else to potentially do that job. One more clip I want to play, just a little fun one here, because it's about kick and punt returners in the battle at punter.
Trying to figure out between Dylan, between Sterling, between
Check that. Wrong clip. Here's the right clip.
We are wide open right now at punter. Tegan Cobb, Simon McClanahan. Simon and Tegan are going to battle it out. Leighton Simmering's done a really good job as a kicker and gives us really good depth there and can probably kick some field goals. And we got to make sure and keep Chris fresh.
So here's the funny thing. The comedic thing here is that Klieman always messes up a name. And there's always a famous one. There's been a couple of names that everybody gets wrong. It's not Khalid Duke, it's Khalid Duke.
Right.
But everybody always said Khalid. It's not Andrew Line Gang, it's Andrew Lane Gang. But everybody says Line Gang.
Right.
My favorite one, and this will always be my favorite, Nate Matlock. Matlock. It's Matt Lack, but it was always Matlock.
Matlock.
I think at the very last press conference where Matt Lack was a part of the roster, he actually said it correctly, which I was like, actually, it's better when it's Matlock, because everybody thinks of the TV show. Well, there is a punter on the team, and Coach said Simon McClanahan.
Yes.
It's Simon McClannon. This might top it as the best name butcher we've had so far from Chris Klieman.
Oh, boy.
It's really funny to me. It's not Simon McClanahan, it's Simon McClannon. That's funny. I kind of like McClanahan a little better.
Yeah.
It's a lot to work with.
At least, listen, I give Coach credit. He comes in with the guys' names for the most part, as opposed to Coach saying, 87 is looking good in practice, and,
That's a good point. he does know everybody's names. He may mispronounce them.
Correct.
But if he looks at somebody's face,
yes,
he knows who he's talking to.
Correct.
He got to know the roster.
Yes.
Not easy to remember, 100-something names, so shout out to Coach.
Yeah, some here soon. It might be over 100 scholarships now on the team, which I need to ask him about that next. Even though it's not official yet, it's not an official thing, right? Just talked about it.
Correct.
We're going in that direction with
Correct.
the NCAA. Let's take a timeout. When we come back, it's number 1 of 20. This is in a countdown. I just have 20 predictions we're going to get to in these 4 weeks leading up to the season. Prediction number 1 is up next. The prediction is, the question, who will lead K-State in interceptions in 2024? We discuss next.
Miss any of the show? Check out the Game podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and of course, NewsRadioKMAN.com. You're listening to The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Is this just the two of us?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
All righty.
It hasn't gotten into the best part yet, I feel.
I don't think it's going to get there.
You're not a fan of this song?
Well,
do you like Bill Withers in general?
yeah. Not my favorite
Obviously, yeah.
or anything like that.
But it's a solid song. Not a solid song. A solid singer.
Well, it's one of those songs when it gets to the chorus, you can't help but to sing along with it.
Of course.
Yacht Rock 1350 KMA. Oh, sorry.
It's a good song. It's a good song. That's all I got to say. It's a good song.
It is a good song. Just the two of us.
We're back. Mitch Fortner, Troy Coverdale, and AJ Shaw. It is Monday, so AJ is ready to put the title on the line. Stump the Shaw coming up at 5:25. That'll be your chance to call in and take him on.
You know, I'm just not really feeling it today. I think I could go down today.
Not getting enough sleep?
No.
That could do it.
No. The Shaw doesn't have that feeling today. He just feels like today might be one of those days. So maybe today's the day where the Shaw goes down.
Well, you hear it. The Shaw is vulnerable. So get ready to call in at 5:20-ish and to play Stump the Shaw.
Or maybe I'm just full of it and I'm just trying to get people to call in and I'm giving them false hope.
Now, why would you say that?
Who knows?
I can't figure this guy out.
I know.
I don't know if he's on the game or yeah. 5:25, Stump the Shaw. Get ready to call in.
All right.
Just by playing, you get the Stump the Shaw prize pack. If you stump the Shaw, 2 tickets to K-State UT Martin on August 31st on us. You're going to the game on us.
What's in
26 days.
What's in the prize pack for the folks who may not know?
Okay, in the prize pack, there's a bunch of stuff. There are earbuds. There are koozies. There's a T-shirt. There's golf balls.
Ooh.
Let's see. I know I'm forgetting. There's free frozen custard from Culver's in this prize pack. I know I'm forgetting something. There's a tape measure. There is a letter opener. Yeah, it's a whole bunch of stuff.
Nice.
There's some good stuff in there.
And you get that just by playing.
It's a pretty good incentive to want to play.
Let's play some predictions. That's not a good segue. Let's just jump into it. Prediction time for K-State football 2024. 20 predictions will be made over the next 20 shows. That starts today. On just thoughts on the upcoming season. We're really going to break this season down based on these predictions. Prediction number 1. I put this number 1 because I thought maybe this is the easiest one of the preseason. Or if you feel like taking a chance, you go with somebody else, but that's totally up to you. And the prediction for today is, well, who's going to lead K-State 2024 in interceptions? I say that's easy because, well, there's one returner that definitely had more interceptions than anybody else returning. That's Jacob Parrish last year, who had 4. Second on the list was Kobe Savage with 3. He's off to Oregon. Will Lee had 2. He transferred out after that awful attempt at a tackle against Iowa State in the snow game. I still can't get over that play.
Yes, bumper cars.
The push-off, yeah. The push-off.
Bumper cars.
And then you had Marquise Siegel who returns, VJ Payne who returns, Keaton Garber who returns, and Desmond Purnell who also returns. That had 1 each. Now you could also go with a newcomer-ish or a newcomer for sure that could also potentially lead the team in interceptions, or maybe a guy out of the transfer portal.
So a quick question: who led K-State Dynasty, your K-State Dynasty, in interceptions this past year?
I don't know, but that's a good question. I don't know. I think it was Keenan Garber.
Keenan Garber?
Keenan Garber.
All right.
Because for some reason, those CPU teams that I was playing, a.k.a. the computer that I was playing, would throw at Keenan Garber. And that was a mistake.
Yeah.
So, who wants to start us off? I know, AJ, you've been thinking about this one for a while. You want to lead us off and tell us who do you have leading K-State in interceptions in 2024?
Sure. So I am going to go with Marquise Siegel. Has 4 career interceptions. I'm going to predict that he evens his career total this year with 4 interceptions leading the team.
I like that optimism. That'd be awesome. The thing about Marquise, I don't think he had I think he had an interception in the KU game. Before that, the hands were kind of bricks. So I'm with you. I hope that does improve. And he wasn't the only one.
Correct.
Troy, who do you have leading the team in interceptions in 2024?
Well, you made the point about it being the obvious from a year ago, and I'm kind of leaning that way because he showed that he could be a bit of a ball hawk, and that's Jacob Parrish with those 4 interceptions of a season ago.
Okay, so that's the easy one. If you listen to the show, you know how high I am on Jordan Riley, the transfer from Ball State. He'll play that jack safety position, taking the place of Kobe Savage. I would love to pick him, but I think he's 3 years in. In his 3 years of college football and playing that position, he does not have 1 career interception.
Really?
I don't know why. If it just, if he's dropped them or they've gone just bricked off his hands, or he's had passes defended but just no interceptions, or he just hasn't been close. I don't have that information. I would love to go Jordan Riley, but based on history, I don't think I can. Corner and Jacob Parrish, I think when it comes to just the corners, he's going to be thrown at more than Keenan Garber.
Yes.
I think Keenan takes on, well, it just depends, I guess. But I think Keenan has just been a better lockdown one-on-one guy. Jacob Parrish isn't too bad either. So he's going to get thrown at more. So just based on that in history, it's hard for me not to go with Jacob Parrish. I think I have to lock in Jacob Parrish. I typically do not want to be the guy that just picks the easy route. And we'll take a chance on somebody. Maybe a hot take. I don't know if I could really name anybody that would seriously be a hot take. Maybe Jack Fabris. We were just last segment talking about Jack and the early impact he made in a very short amount of time, a very short amount of snaps that were meaningful. Mm-hmm. You could, I guess, go that route. I don't know if I'm necessarily ready for that. Not a defensive back, not at a position that just has veteran guys that are all good. It could be any one of them. This will be a very rare thing I'm going to do, but I'm just going to go with the easy victory. Jacob Parrish, last year's ball hawk, will be your leading leader in interceptions in 2024.
See, I think, and Parrish is an easy pick, but I think sometimes you got to go outside the box, make it a little interesting for the folks back home, and that's why I went with Marquise Siegel. I feel like he's just going to have a great year. He's kind of the veteran now in that at the safety position with Kobe Savage gone. He had a good year last year, and I just have a feeling he's going to have a pretty good year this year.
Well, I just can't. I can't go with any of the safeties.
Yeah.
Jordan Riley does not have a career interception. VJ Payne and Marquise Siegel were wearing, bricks as
Right.
hands. It just,
Yeah.
I think VJ, didn't he have the one-handed interception at Tech? And everybody was like, oh my God, he caught that and it was one-handed? Like, it's like they saw a ghost. Like how with Marquise Siegel, he had that floater in the interception, which was shades of the game, the Big 12 championship game, the Julius Brents interception. It was shades of that. It was like it couldn't have been more gift wrapped of an interception. I'm not taking away anything from Marquise Siegel. That was more of a pressure turnover than anything because the blitz was coming and here comes the pressure.
Well, we'll see.
I'm just,
I get it.
This is just, it could be anybody, but the safe route is Jacob Parrish.
Well, sometimes you got to take a risk, and I'm taking that risk. I'm confident Marquise Siegel's going to have a good year.
Well, the risk I think would be VJ Payne.
That's true.
And I don't mean to say the risk is like a bad thing or anything, like it's a major gamble, like he couldn't turn that around. I'm just, kind of have to base things on last year,
Yeah.
So Jacob Parrish is going to be my guy that leads Case in interceptions in 2024. We'll have another prediction coming up tomorrow. Meanwhile, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll step away from the Cats for just a moment. We have one more week of Olympics updates. Troy Coverdale takes over with his Olympic update after these words.
Your home for K-State sports.
Soft liner, caught by Day, and lightning strikes twice. Slack does a flip on the mound, and folks, the Cats, for the second time in school history, are going to the Super Regionals.
This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Got the TV on USA right now, and they're rebroadcasting some wrestling that took place earlier today. As an American, it looks weird to watch this, and the wrestlers aren't wearing the ear guards.
Yeah.
Which is really, as far as I understand, it's just an American thing to wear the ear guards. Internationally, that's not really a thing at all. But it's still weird to see that. They look less wrestler. Without the ear guards.
They look less wrestler and more wrestler.
Yeah. Kurt Angle, who was Olympic gold medalist, he won in 96 with a broken neck.
Oof.
Back then they didn't wear ear guards. And, of course, in pro wrestling, anybody that Gable Stevenson, who didn't end up working out with WWE, but was also an Olympian and a wrestler, none of them wore the ear guards.
Right.
Obviously, because, it just looks, it's a little too much for pro wrestlers. Like, honestly, that might bury you. Then actually get you over and try to get over in popularity.
You've got to be able to show the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you got a cauliflower ear, show it off. It's part of the look.
Yeah, there's that.
We're back in the game. Mitch Fortner, Troy Coverdale, and AJ Shaw. Speaking of the Olympics, we're in week number 2 of Troy Coverdale's Olympic updates. Here is Troy Coverdale.
Simone Biles wrapped up her final day at the Paris Olympics with more hardware for the greatest gymnast of her generation. Biles leaves Paris with 3 golds and a silver. The silver earned today as she placed second in the floor exercise. It marked the first time in her career that she did not win that event at a major competition, however. She finished second to Rebecca Andrade of Brazil, who had been coming in second consistently to Biles in other events.
Finally got her.
Third went to American gymnast Jordan Childs. And if you see, by the way, the photo afterwards, Biles and Childs bowing to Andrade, but the smile on Andrade's face is so great because she won gold at the Olympics. Prior to the floor exercise, Biles and Suni Lee each failed to medal on the balance beam. They made errors in a competition that really was replete with them. Biles, though, all told, an 11-time Olympic medalist. Psst. Nobody has mentioned Los Angeles in 28 yet. There's that chance. So you're saying there's a chance?
Your whisper voice is kind of scary. We need to do some voiceovers.
Noah Lyles had no problem in his opening 200-meter heat today.
Halloween's in 2 months.
20.19. I know what you did last summer, and it was not run as fast as Noah Lyles. 20.19 second no drama romp around the curve that was routine for him today.
You know, in that movie, they did the opposite of whispering. That was a loud movie.
So anyway, his 200 heat was nothing like his photo finish from Saturday in the 100. Lyles beat defending Olympic champion Andre DeGrasse of Canada in the 200 by 11/10 of a second. Lyles is trying to become the first man to double since Usain Bolt did it for the third time. That was in Rio in 2016. Carl Lewis, the last U.S. man to pull off the double in the 100 and 200. That was 1984.
It's been a minute.
Valerie Allman made it back-to-back golds as the American won women's discus. She also won in Tokyo. Also, Keely Hodgkinson gave Britain its first athletics gold medal of the Olympics by winning the women's 800 final. 2 U.S. teams fell on the sand at Eiffel Tower Stadium. Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss lost to Canada in the women's quarterfinals of the beach volleyball match a few hours after Chase Buttinger and Miles Evans lost to Norway in the men's. Only Miles Evans and Andy Benish advanced on the day, joining Kelly Cheng and Sarah Hughes in the Elite Eight. Jonalu Sanchez scored in the 85th minute. Spain moves into its record, equaling 5th Olympic men's soccer final, beating Morocco 2-1. It will be either France or Egypt that the Spaniards will face. Finally, on the court this evening, U.S. advances to the men's volleyball finals, or semifinals rather, where they will face Poland as they took a win over Brazil.
I watched a little team volleyball yesterday. It was, man, what a nail-biter. It was a Poland and Brazil in women's team volleyball, indoor volleyball, and their second set was like a 39-37 finish. It was crazy. And it all started with Brazil having 5 set points to win it at 25. And it just went crazy overtime. What do we got here? Watched quite a bit of Olympics over the weekend. Watched some fencing. There was an American that was just throwing a temper tantrum every time he didn't get a touch. So it was very American, I would have to say. There was actually a great crowd pop for the men's pole vault. A guy from Sweden set a new world record today.
Yes.
And it was really awesome because everything was stopped. Everybody, the whole stadium was watching him. And, boy, crazy vault. I mean, crazy high.
A better outcome than the Frenchman who had his get caught up on the bar the other day.
I didn't see that.
You haven't seen that video?
Uh-uh.
Oh, no. That's become notable because basically he did hit the bar with his leg on his way up, so it likely was going to be a scratch anyway. It's just that on his way down, he proceeded to hit it with what was hanging around. So, which then prompted all kinds of jokes because it is the internet after all.
Of course, in track and field, I mean, the place was just packed.
Oh, sure.
It's been packed the entire time.
Yep.
And it's not just French people, everybody from all over the place. Very melting pot of countries there for track and field. The entire stadium popped for this guy that set the world record. It was really cool.
My friends Aaron and Amber finished up their stretch in Paris by getting to watch Sha'Carri Richardson's first heat the other day. And were raving about how fun it was just to be around that track when all of that activity was going on.
She took second.
Yeah,
that's a bummer.
She got off to a bad start. Which, I mean, let's be perfectly honest. Noah Lyles got off to a bad start, but boy, what a last 50 he ran yesterday to win that title.
You watched his 100?
Oh, yeah. That was amazing.
I mean, everybody just finished so closely, but of course the photo was going around of the finish and how the guy from Jamaica, his foot got across first. He should have won. Well, it's your torso. Mm-hmm. In track and field, it's the torso that finishes first.
One of the things that got shared, someone shared the stat sheet that broke it down to what their splits were at every 10.
It was cool. I saw that.
Yeah, because it went from 7 to 6 to 3. I mean, just how quickly he made that ground up.
Yeah, when you got to break it down to thousandths of a second to determine 1 through 8 is just an insanely close race. But that's why in track and field, that's why people lean when they are crossing the finish line. It's because it's the torso.
Yes.
That's where you finish.
And I am going to say this about the NBC announcing of it because I know that they've taken some heat for how it was called. Let's be perfectly honest. They don't have a straight-on look unless they're watching the monitor. And even there, it may not be the best look for them in trying to judge how that race wound up.
I know you're trying to stick up for our fellow broadcaster, but I got to, when it's that close, you just can't blind eye.
You do have to hedge a little.
Yeah, you got to wait for those official results to come in when it's so close like that. Yeah, this weekend was extremely fun for the Olympics, but we got to get out. Hour number 2 coming up next. More from Chris Klieman, Stump the Shaw, as well as Hour 2 the game is coming up next on K-Man.